Right. Okay, so skip a couple of days ahead. I did not film much of this. I was in a rush. My life has been pretty crazy the last week or two. Had some pretty big life changes, but you can see we're pretty far along with the bike. Got all our fairings, all of that stuff on. It's actually finished. So, well, you know, it was finished until I done some stuff that wasn't quite right. Let's have a look at it anyway. So she's looking pretty good. We had the safety certificate guy come through today, like an actual legitimate safety cert guy, not the old leave it in the post box kind of guy. And we don't want to scratch that up, Carl. So we'll put that on the side. And he had a couple of notes that he wanted me to rectify before I get the safety cert for it. So one being the front and rear indicators. He would like the OEM indicators put on for the safety certificate. So luckily I still have them. I didn't bin them. We're going to put those on, and he mentioned that rear indicators too should probably be stock. So I'm actually just going to put the whole rear. Where are we? We're over here somewhere. Oh, no, we got it sitting in the bin here. Yeah, it's good. One issue he had was the rear light. So the number plate light just there. Hopefully that's got a bulb in it. We're just gonna put this ugly big old thing back in, plug her up, get her going. Man, that is all kinds of ugly. And get our safety cert. We'll take this bad boy off. One of the I gotta change out these bad boys. And that's pretty much it. Just the indicators and the tail. Chuck that on. Tomorrow we'll get our roadie. But I also noticed I went to start it just before, and it did start. And we've got a new fuel pump setup going on over here. So the issue we had, if you follow my Instagram, you'll see that I just decided I wasn't actually going to swap the pump straight away, but I decided, hey, why not? I got a little bit of time. Took the pump out, and this is what we found. This is the old pump. This is what came with the bike. We got rust deposits. This whole thing was just covered in rust. This is the fuel pickup, and the whole thing is perished and dirty. The fuel sender unit just kind of hanging on inside there. Wasn't actually reading the actual accurate fuel level. It was, yeah, just floating around, and yeah, just not so great. We've got corrosion and everything in there, and nasty. Yeah, you can see this is the fuel level sender unit here. You can see it's not exactly in great shape. That was just floating around in there too, so not ideal. And I brought a new fuel pump hanger for the R6, but the guy actually accidentally sent me one for an R1 that happens to be bloody beautiful, because that's what I needed. Don't want to use this one, it's quite brittle, so I don't want to use that, especially these pieces here. So this is what your fuel line connects to. That is quite brittle and likely to break. So yeah, thankfully I got an R1 sent instead of the R6. This had a fairly new pump in it, I was told, so wasn't too bad. I took the pump out and I replaced it with this guy here. So this is a Quantum fuel pump. It is E85 compatible, and it has a bump up in pressure as well, flow and pressure. So it is better than the OEM pump. And me being me, at like 12 or something last night installing a fuel pump, I left out a few steps. So one thing that I done, I didn't put this on. I'll show you when I install it and put it back together. I did not put this on, and this sits at the bottom of the pump and it holds it in. I didn't think it'd be an issue because it has this big old O-ring here that sits over the top, and this sits inside there, and it was firm. Like, it did not feel like it was going to come out or go anywhere. But turn on the key, fuel pressure builds up, and then it just pushes itself out. So I didn't think that would happen, but that is what happened. So I went and trimmed this down. This had a couple of tabs sticking out like a couple of millimeters. You just need to shave that down, and then it will fit over there. And another thing is, this little guy here needs to sit recessed into the actual carrier. That little hole way down there, down the bottom, that sits in there. and the fuel pressure will actually push it out, unless you have this guy here. This is like a little collar, and this needs to sit over the fuel pump here, and what, like, that sits right down the bottom there, and what that does is it sits here perfect. So it kind of spaces, and it gives yeah, it's a spacer essentially. It stops this washer, or stops this grommet from being pushed out and out of the way. And yeah, alright, so this guy down. Let's see how far we can push this guy down. Because this pump has barbs on it, it's a little bit more difficult than the fuel pump that does not. So maybe we can just tap it down. Try and tap it down with the old socket over there and a hammer. Looks like it's going to go, I think, hopefully. A little bit of split in the plastic now, but as long as it stays together, not the end of the world. And there we go. So now, look at this guy on here. Beautiful. That is a 11mm Steve socket. By the way, just if you're wondering, and then we're gonna put this guy on. Okay, so you can see. All right, yeah. You need that to sit flat on the top of there. That's the perfect height. Look at that, beautiful. Let's go in here. Only goes one way. I'll just squeeze it back in the hole, like so. And that is as far. Okay, nice. Now we're cooking the fire. Not literally, because we're dealing with fuel, but you get the gist. This is our collar. It stops it from pushing out. So when this pressurizes, obviously it's trying to pressurize and push fuel up and into the motor, and it's just ejecting itself out of that little O-ring. Obviously counterproductive to what you want to be doing. This thing's a little bit fiddly to get on, but a little bit of arguing and she'll go on right. This filter sock's not exactly 100% the right size, but it is the best suited one that comes with the kit. Yeah, 1, 2. Oh yeah, that's gonna hold it in nice and snug. Ooh, damn. Yeah, nice. Alright, so that fuel pump is now secure in there. Nice and good. She's not going up and she's not going out. So once you've done that, you kind of got to wriggle this thing around too. Obviously being careful with the filter sock and where these wires run, so they need to tuck in. Once you're done, you just tuck them up under there and gets them out of the way. And the actual sock itself, you just got to tuck her in there real good. You can see it. It's a little bit of a tight fit, but she does fit. Screwdriver. Down and out of the way. Boom, boom. And that is our fuel unit done. Back together. Just run these bad boys up here through here. And do one of these ones. And that's it. And there's also a little, I think it's this one. No, this one here. You can see where I've cut this off. There's a little arm that sticks out. If it's your first time taking a pump out, just get some side cutters and cut it off, fish it out of the tank. But this will get stuck on the lip on the outside. It is a pain in the ass. And just yeet it off, just cut it, should be right. Yeah, I guess that's that done. I'll give this a wipe down. Continuing to make a mess here, and it reeks of fuel, and I've been awake for way too long. Whoop. Make sure your O-ring's seated in there nice and tidy. You can see where it's leaked out of there before. Just all the bumpy surface and everything that was there. And if it decides it's going to leak a little bit more, then I guess at that point, that's where I'll chuck some sealant in there.
"2,000 years later."
Alright guys, so it's Monday and the bike's done. Pretty much. Like, this video has been dragging on for a while. There's been a bit going on in my life, so she's kind of taken the back seat. At least the videos have taken the back seat, but she is done. Everything's running, everything's run in, and it is all good. I've taken her for a few rides, ridden her for about a week now actually, and the tune in it is good. Exhaust is good. Mods for the head, that is good. She's fresh. She makes power through the whole power band. And she is spicy. Tires are good. Shocks are all good. Yeah, she is actually performing really well, considering what I paid for one and the amount of work I had to put into her to get it to this point. She's done pretty good. There's a few issues, like I took her for a ride up Mount Nebo, Mount Glorious over the weekend, and she has cooked. You can see it here. She's cooked this front right fork seal. Not the end of the world, given that I do want to service and change the oil in the fronts and the rear shock as well. And you can see it kind of got on the rotor a little bit, but that's not the end of the world. You remember when I was building it, I actually used the pads, the old pads that were sintered, and I just gave them a clean and chucked them back in, which is, you know, even if like you didn't have a spare set of pads to replace, you could probably just clean these again and chuck them in. But given that these ones now are contaminated pretty heavy with some lovely shock fluid, shock oil, probably going to bin them and chuck the newies in once this is all sorted out. That's something I need to work out, is how to change this shock fork seal. Anyway, doesn't seem too hard. I had a look online, you know, it seems pretty straightforward, so yeah, is what it is. Clutch. The clutch is working fantastically. No more rattles, no more shakes. You remember I welded up some shims in there, some cut down washers, and we shimmed it up, welded those in. That is performing flawlessly. That is all good. All the oil and everything is moving around. She is clean. There's no oil leaks or anything. All these new hoses are performing well as well. We have a extra clamp on. You can see I got this clamp here. Just there's no actual split in the hose, but if you look underneath, with our manual timing chain tensioner here, the bolt sticks out where I've got it set and where I'm comfortable with it. It actually pushes just a 15th into the radiator hose. So I've put this clamp on so the bolt actually presses against the bottom of the hose clamp, as opposed to trying to push its way through and wear its way through the silicone hose here. So that worked out pretty good too. I have ordered through Facebook Marketplace another catch overflow bottle, just because this one doesn't have one. It did have one, but the tabs were broken and I binned it. So yeah, we're gonna get that in, but it doesn't overheat. She gets up to about 110, I think is the most I've seen, and that is doing some very heavy pulls and then stopping in traffic, stop-start traffic. So she's doing pretty good. Temperature-wise, all of that. There was a slight leak from the thermostat housing, the gasket that sits in there, sits at the top of the tank, that did have a very slight weep and a few drips would appear, and I just took the whole thing off. Didn't replace the O-ring, I just used some grey silicone, some RTV, and yeah, that cleaned that up. We got ourselves a new quad lock phone mount. All of these are working brilliantly. They don't kind of vibrate too much, they don't fall off. Both the CNC billet brake fluid reservoirs, brake lines, flawless. Rear brake is actually cleaning up somewhat. I think, well, you can see there was something stuck in there, but since riding it, she's cleaning up that rotor. Back brake is working pretty good too. She looks good. That's a big part too. The fairings actually came out pretty well. She's looking good. She is sounding good. I don't think I have a spare key down here. Probably in the door. Like usual. Just leave my shit laying around. She starts up. She runs nice. And of course, the battery in the GoPro died. So gimbal free, let's rock it. That is gonna call it for the end of the video. It's a bit here and there with the port and polishing, and then the whole bike kind of just slapped together. Bang, done. Do apologize for that, but anywho, try better on the next one. Like, comment, subscribe. If you got any questions, just chuck them in the comments, man. Anyway, that's that. I'm gonna get started on this next video. The next one being, I'm gonna drain the tank. We're gonna switch over to E85 and play around with that. Let's see how that goes. And yeah, like I said, we'll get some riding videos and all of that on this next one. So, peace.